Will here, again from Texarkana. A lot of you folks may not recognize by sight what you're looking at right here, but to anybody who has any kind of familiarity with Bigfoot, you'll recognize when I show you where we are by this sign, Boggy Creek. This is the original Boggy Creek, not the often copied Boggy Creek. This is actually the home of the Fouke monster. You can actually see right here, 1970, on the bridge right there where they engraved into the original sign. And the cool thing about this is, this sign right here is the most stolen road sign in Arkansas. It's also one of the top 5 in America that's stolen that has to be replaced. So anyway, very, very cool thing to see right here. Like I said, the original home, so much history. Place has an aura on its own, but I wanted to share this with you in case you never get down to Arkansas and you can see where this whole legend thing started.
Of the Texas Bigfoot Rangers, Michael, she found something in one of his pictures, right?
Man, she did. You know, this is one of the most incredible pictures that I've ever seen. As far as I knew, I was the first one to ever get pictures of Bigfoot teeth. I have the one there that I sent you last year where he's at, or this where he's actually biting my camera. His nose is being disfigured. You can see the blocked teeth there. He's got 4 blocked teeth, and then a space, and then he has a canine that just sticks down just a little bit below there. And again, that space is called the primate space. Well, anyway, Mary's had this picture. According to Michael, I think it happened. The man's name's Michael Waldy, and he's one of the best Bigfoot researchers that nobody's ever heard of. Man, this guy's got bravery written all over him. He goes out by himself at night. He'll have a sidearm on his side, but I mean, he'll go trudging through the brush. It doesn't matter. He'll do what it takes. He sets up dummy camps along these different places, you know, and sets out cameras for these Bigfoot to walk up on. He's gotten pictures that way. Not anything exceptionally clear, but the thing about this picture, he has one of his girlfriends with him, and they're in Oklahoma. And so Michael is walking up the hill. 30 feet up there to his left is a brush top, and there's a cleft in this rock. And so she takes a picture of him right there by this brush top. And so he has this picture sent to Mary, and Eagle Eye Mary is what I call her. And anytime I have any kind of question, I send it to Mary. And so Mary helped me verify this, and to get that, you know, women are so much more observant than us men, but man, she's just got a talent, as does this lady from Blanchard, Louisiana. And so she goes, this is Michael's picture. She said, and I told him there's a Bigfoot in here, and he just doesn't want to believe it. Michael's a very humble man. He's not out trying to make that name for himself and say, look at me, I'm the greatest Bigfoot hunter there is. No, man, he's just out there just for the research because he enjoys it. He's very, very good. He does what it takes to be a researcher. Well, anyway, Mary sends me this picture, and then we're sitting there talking, me and my wife and her, we're kind of talking on group talk there. And so she says, but look, there's hair right there. And I said, I said, Mary, what about that hand up there at the top of that brush top? And she goes, what are you talking about? And I said, look at the hand up at the top of this brush top. And so I tell her where it's at. She looks, she goes, oh my gosh. He goes, I hadn't seen that because I was so busy looking at the hair. Well, you look underneath the hand then, and then there's another muzzle of another Bigfoot. Then you get down to the middle of the brush top, then you've got the face and muzzle of the adult of the series is what I'm gonna call it. I don't know if it's an alpha or whatever it is, but anyway, it's a giant Bigfoot. You see the muzzle, you see the nose, you see the black spot of the eyes, and you see the chin there, and then to the other side of the brush top, you've got a baby, a hairless newborn, and you can see fingers on the side of this newborn's face cradling this thing in. So there's actually three Bigfoot that are in this brush top. And whenever we were sitting there, and it's about 1:30 at night when we're talking, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see that." And then of course I hadn't seen it till she had showed me where the brush was and the hair was in the middle. So anyway, I said, "Mary, you're gonna have to call Michael and tell him," because she goes, "Yeah, he just wouldn't believe me." 1:30 at night, we ring up Michael, and she goes, Michael, William's got another picture with teeth in it." And he goes, "Oh man," he goes, "Yeah," he said, "I knew he would." Said, he paid me some nice comments and everything else like that. Said he does, good research and everything. And Mary said, "Here, I want you to see it." So she tells him where everything's located. He goes, "Yep, that's exactly what that is." And she goes, "Michael Waldy?" She said, "That's your picture." And he said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You just sent it to me?" He goes, "No, that's your picture, the one that I've had all these years that I told you there's a Bigfoot in." That doesn't demean Michael's Bigfoot hunting skills at all. Michael was in the right area. What it does bring about is the fact that Bigfoot, you see Bigfoot when they want you to see him. These things, they didn't try to stink him out. They didn't growl at him. They didn't take, any kind of measures like that right there. But you can actually see the big block teeth in this big one right there in the middle. So again, like I said, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. There were some people this year that were actually trying to impeach Michael's credibility this year about a track that he had found and made. And I'm here to tell them and anybody else, if this guy tells you a chicken dip snuff, you can look under his wing and find the can, because he's that kind of researcher. He's not out to pull anybody's leg or to make that $1 million. Matter of fact, he spends more on it than he's ever going to make if he did get the $1 million shot. He's a very good researcher, and that's one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen. And I've sent you 3 or 4 there. Hopefully everybody will be able to see those things, and you'll see. And then I sent you another picture there. I was on the internet the other night, and there is a group called the most dangerous or most vicious chimpanzee tribe in the world, and it's over in Western Africa.
Wait. Now, let's back up for a second. Before you go on, you forgot to mention Michael Waldy's picture, something that you found in it.
Go ahead, Duke. Tell me which one I forgot, because I after getting through that story, tell me which part.
Well, Mary found the face in there. You guys both looked at it closer, and you went, "Well, there's more than one there."
Right.
There's also a hand on the top of the brush pile that nobody noticed until you saw it and went, "Well, Mary, look, there's a hand right there."
That's it. That's hand right there. When I say that, and she goes, "Oh, where's it at?" And I told her, and that hand right there at the top. And so, man, when you see that hand, I've also had one of the expert Bigfoot hunters here tell me that a Bigfoot finger is only 5 inches long. I'm here to tell you, undoubtedly, a Bigfoot finger is of 7 to 8 inches long, just on an average Bigfoot. The first Bigfoot I ever saw down there at Sulphur River, he was eating leaves, and he had his hand wrapped around a limb before he let it slide up. I'm looking at fingers, like I said, that are 7 or 8 inches long as he lifts this limb and lets it go, as he walks out into the middle of the road there, and his hands are there. I'm getting a good look at these fingers. That's one thing I'm very impressed with, is the size of his hand.
Yeah, you get pictures of their hands when they pick up your game cam and throw it too, as far as that goes.
Exactly. I've seen pictures of the thumb and the hand of the hand that I have right there. So when you're getting these kind of pictures, it's not something you're guessing with, but somebody saying, "Oh, go ahead."
The person that's having issues with what you're saying and is not agreeing with you is somebody that was on a documentary recently where they said he was an acclaimed Bigfoot researcher, but if you're actually watching it with the subtitle captions on, they mistyped it apparently, because it says "a claimed Bigfoot researcher" instead of "acclaimed." So if any of you guys can figure out what documentary I'm talking about, you'll be able to figure out exactly who the culprit here is.
That was almost a Freudian slip of a typewriter, because I'm not out to argue these people. I'm not out to sit there and dispute what they say. I try to, you know me, Duke. I try not to run down other Bigfoot hunters. I try not to run down their research, publicly or privately, if I can keep from it. But by the same token, man, just because I'm not from the beautiful people of the West Coast, man, I do some serious research. I bust my rear end working hard to do to do my research and to do it correctly. And like I said, to bring pictures to people that they can see just plain as day what you're talking about. And so again, you can see it on the pictures of the ones I sent you where he's got his hand up there on my windshield. So for this right there, like I said, that hand, and you see, not only do you see that, you see 4 fingers of this Bigfoot at the top of this brush top there, and you can't deny it. And I've got them highlighted for folks to see right there. And so it's going to be something that anybody that doesn't believe in Bigfoot, when you've got 3 Bigfoot in the same blasted brush top there, and like I said, and Michael is sitting right there, and the only reason he's oblivious is because they don't give themselves away. They don't, if you get too close, sometimes they'll stink you out. They'll make a noise. Sometimes they'll bust from cover. But man, they just stayed right there where they were, and he went right on by. And I don't know the rest of the story. I haven't seen the follow-up photo after that, but because Michael's such a humble man, I'm sure he didn't take another one. He just thought, well, I didn't have anything, but that's not the case, man. He's got one of the most interesting pictures that you'll ever see. And to have 3 Bigfoot in that brush top that are hiding in that cleft of that rock, they've got the brush pulled in front of them. And it's just it's something that you don't ever forget when you see it. And I was privileged to be able to see that picture, and thankful for him and Mary for sharing it, and for him letting her share it, but also for letting us share it here with you at World Bigfoot Radio. Because I said, man, can I show it to him? He goes, sure, man. He said, if that's what you think you want to do. And so anyway, so very, very good picture. I think it's going to really impress some people. I hope so anyway, because it's a very truthful, genuine picture.
Yeah. I always love it when stuff like this happens. When I had the one guest on talking about the White Oak Mountain monster, in the process of doing that interview with me, he was contacted by somebody else that went like, hey, I live on the other side of the mountain from you, and I've seen that same one over here, and blah, 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 blah. The next thing you know, I've got him on the show, doing a show, because, the other side of the same damn mountain, and they both had this stuff going on for umpteen years in the same area and didn't know each other.
It's your mind does bounce off of them sometimes, because you want to get so many of these things told. Duke calls me the mouth of the South, and y'all know that I love to talk. I love to talk Bigfoot, and I was a UPS man for 35 years. Everything that I did was underneath a stopwatch, so I had to get certain things said in a certain amount of time, and that's kind of it's a hard habit to break. So you'll notice that I do that, and I am working on it, trying to make it better.
I don't call you the mouth of the South. I call you the fastest mouth of the South.
Okay, fastest.
You're like the gunslinger of Herbage down in the Deep South. You get out a paragraph before half your customers can say, well, thanks, and get that out.
Well, man, I've also preached, and they told me the same thing in doing that. Another guy told me, he said, you missed your call, and he said, you shouldn't have been a UPS man. You should have been an auctioneer. I'm like,
exactly.
But anyway, so that's where that story is right there. But it's been really neat. Me and my wife, we found some files there. She was taking the SD cards, and that's before I had any kind of card reader. I wasn't really familiar with these SD cards. There's different kinds of hunting. If you deer hunt, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You have still hunting when you're actually on the ground. You're trying to track these animals, and you're trying to get the shot and doing that way. There's also stand hunting, which most of us do. We buy the deer stand, we sit up in the stand, try to pick an area there that we think the deer will come by. The most from the most angle that's going to give you the best shot at the deer. And then there's also, and most people, before they go out hunting on either one of them, what they do is they put the cameras out to see what's out there. And that's what I do. I do game cam photography because, as I said, right now, when I've been incapacitated for 2 months with foot surgery and hand surgery, my camera has been back there doing some hunting for me. And so, as I said, I've been able to get pictures of 4 animals. And then what we had done before, we had loaded these stuff off the SD cards onto my wife's tablet there. And so then she uploaded some more stuff that she had. Well, we got separated from the rest of the Bigfoot pictures and had forgotten about it. I didn't know anything about how she'd load them. Well, we were in there about 2 months ago, and she goes, "What is this?" And we go to looking at it, and sure enough, man, we have some pictures in there that we didn't realize we had before. And some of them are really, really interesting. I've got a picture of one there from one of the game cameras. I kept trying to set the game camera, and the game camera wouldn't set. I'm like, all of a sudden it would start going off. I'm like, what is going on? This is just a crummy camera. Well, no. Finally, I get it to where it sets, and I come back, get everything the way I want it. I leave, and I come back coincidentally the next day, and I pull there, and I was going to see if the camera was actually working. So anyway, I take it home. She uploads it. Well, when everything is trying to be set, sure enough, there is a Bigfoot that's hiding over there in the woods. I guess he's moving enough for it to pick him up. But you see the first picture there, and you look by the tree. There's a big double tree right in the middle, and there's nothing right there at all. 2 minutes later, when you walk by, according to my timestamp, there's the Bigfoot that's hiding right there next to this tree. It'll be on the right-hand side of these two double trees in the middle of this picture. And the thing is, it has like what we call the patty type beard or mustache. I've never seen a Bigfoot that has that before, but sure enough, this one has that. He's got the patty type mustache and the hair, and he's got the cone head. And so you can see this. It's not where he's sitting there, fixing to do a song and dance, but you see the eyes and you see the cone head, you see the hair, and you see just how dependent they are on hiding in order to survive like what they have. I mean, he is hugging that tree very, very close to it, but he's got his eyes out. He's going to be seen. Then another one that we found there, we couldn't figure it out what it was when she and I were looking at it. Well, finally, I got it in the right angle, and it's like a sonogram picture, one that you take, of your newborns, and there is a baby Bigfoot right there. He has no hair on his face. His eyes are not open. And you can see it's kind of got the same kind of muzzle type face. So I filtered this up, and then I compared it. I sent some pictures of some other apes there, and orangutans and gorillas there, of the newborns of theirs, and you compare it, and you see that you're looking at a newborn baby Bigfoot. This Bigfoot, like I said, does not have any hair at all. I promise you, this thing probably cannot be older than a day, if nothing like this. And whatever it is, it's walking by the mama is walking by the camera, and you see at the bottom of the left-hand side jowl and the head there, it looks like some little jagged shapes there. And I blew those up, and they appear to be fingers of mama that's holding the baby's head close to her as she had walked by my camera. And evidently this picture was taken from about 1.5 feet away, something like that. Well, I compared it with Michael Waldy's picture there of that baby Bigfoot. And again, you see fingers holding it close the same way. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, we almost missed it. So again, it was simply just by being that we had misplaced it and put it with a different bunch of pictures. So I think that's one of the coolest pictures that I've ever seen. We got one there that's spying into the camera. You see the eye pretty clear, and I'm just hoping against hope that they came out good. That's the cry of using game cam photography. It's not like taking a picture necessarily with your camera or anything else like that, but the question is, do you get anything by using these, or do you get nothing at all by not? And so I would rather a little bit of something, to me, is better than a whole lot of nothing, because what it does, if nothing else, it gives you the confirmation that your Bigfoot are in your area. So again, that's one of the best pictures that I've ever seen, the most intriguing. And to back that up, I knew 3 ladies that 2 of them had grandbabies, and one of them had the baby herself there. And of course, now the deal is you have a picture of that baby in that sonogram before it's ever born. Well, sure enough, I said, ladies, what does this look like to you? And coincidentally, it took a while, and one of them just writes off, said that looks like a sonogram or something other. And boy, I mean, man, the light bulbs went off, and like you won the $1 million. I'm like, yes, that's the answer I'm looking for. Well, the second lady, she looked at it, and after a little while, she goes, it looks almost like, one of those pictures that the women get of their babies. It's the one that's still in the womb. I see, you talking about sonogram? She goes, yeah. Well, man, there's number 2, and again,
and
the third.
I saw it, and I went, is that a Cabbage Patch Squatch, or what?
Yeah, he's a Cabbage Patch, and that's what it looks like. This little knothead, you can see the mouth. The mouth is still in suckle position, as though it's nursing. You can see the little knobby nose on that joker, and like I said, you see what would be the eyebrows, like it was almost in surprise kind of look. But again, that's what the picture is, and to get that verification from 3 ladies, like I said, who have just had occasion to see the sonogram pictures and everything else like that. And I felt like they would be almost the closest thing you could find to an expert witness besides what I had seen. My wife actually agreed with me the first time I told her what it was, and that's a rarity in looking at things on Bigfoot cameras. She and I don't, and women don't, and men don't always see the same thing. But she agreed instantly with me. She said, "Yeah, that looks like one of those. That's a baby. That's some kind, almost like a sonogram picture." I'm like, "Great." So anyway, that's going to be something I think that's going to be really, really interesting. I hope it will be to everybody, and because it was to me. And like I said, I'm working on. I actually have that on her iPad, so I'm going to see if there is some way that I can take it to a professional camera studio, get that filtered up better on, and I'm going to. Again, I'll be glad to share that whenever I do. I'm gonna share it with y'all, but also I'm gonna have it blown up into a bigger picture because that's a picture that you're just not gonna get. You're not gonna get that picture every day. So that's something I was really excited about to find that on there. And again, we just lucked out in finding those pictures there on her tablet because it had gotten separated. So anyway, that's kind of something else, that's going along there. And then I've sent those pictures of the last few animals that I found, and I went to my deer lease. I have a deer lease in a little place called Cale, Arkansas, which is right around the Little Missouri River bottoms. And man, let me tell you what, last year, towards the end of the year, the Bigfoot had moved in there. And every time I was going, I was finding 5 to 6 pictures, 5 to 6 footprints. I'd take their pictures and everything else like that. Came back in the spring, find some more footprints, and the footprints, according to the pictures, are not the same animal. So evidently, we've got either a troop moving through or different animals coming in through there. But that's going to be something that I'm excited about because our deer season, the bow season, has actually started. One thing about Bigfoot are the janitors of the forest as far as for cleaning up all the deer. Most people, when they get a gunshot, they get really excited. We have something called buck fever. And it's people that are even used to seeing them. Yeah, I mean, you're there to see a deer, and all of a sudden you do, and your heart rate gets real high, and then your hands start shaking. People have actually had heart attacks just by buck fever. Well, so you can imagine if you get would be called Bigfoot fever, seeing a Bigfoot in that way like that right there. Whenever you're not something that you're not expecting to see, and all of a sudden there that thing is. So I'm very excited with what I have there at my deer lease. I've had encounters down there before. I had one night just hollering at me, man, just to beat the band. I was actually nervous, and I don't park but about 60 yards away, but I was actually nervous about walking back to my truck, and made sure I left plenty of time. As I said, I don't stay into the woods anymore like I used to. So anyway, that's about where things are going right here with me. Again, like I said, one of my areas down here around Sulphur River. It's a wildlife management area. That's the neat thing about what me and Stephen Hill and Randy and Reese and Shannon are all finding. It's all public land. When you're finding these creatures on public land, you've got to ask yourself, how in the world are they hiding from these other people that they don't know they're there? And again, I think it's from being an experienced researcher, again, because I'm down there 5 days a week. I think maybe they have come to accept the fact that I'm a permanent fixture of the landscape now that I'm going to be down there. And so that's a pretty good question that I'm going to try to find out the answer to. But with what they have done with this area, they close it for 6 months out of the year. And then whenever they finally open that joker up, man, nature has done reclaimed it. The animals have done reverted back to their old ways, to where there wasn't people down. They just don't tolerate you real well, man. For the first little bit, if you see a deer, it ain't going to run from you. If you see a coyote, it's not going to run. You see a hog, it's probably going to charge you. But then if you get around a Bigfoot, they're going to let you know real quick that they're there, and either they're going to tolerate you or they're not happy with your presence. So I'm very, very excited about that. I think I'll get some good stuff again that I can get out. I finally have gotten out of this boot. I had a block boot that I was having to walk on, and so getting to get out into the woods again. So I'm hopefully going to have some good things happen to me again this year. And again, I've got good partners. I can't give them enough credit for what I do. I got to give credit to like your show and the other shows that I've been on. The people that are willing to share information. Whether it's the listeners or the hosts that have been willing to share information for me. And I've actually gotten to go shoot a TV show here back during August. So I'm hoping that will come out this fall. And I'm under a non-disclosure deal to tell what it is, but y'all will be able to see it. And like I said, hopefully it's got enough evidence to it that anybody that's a skeptic, maybe we can kind of pull them to our side a little bit. And so that's kind of what all's been going on with me right now. And without getting to get out and research with those 2 surgeries still, like I said, when that spy point's out, and anytime that thing rings, it's almost like an alarm clock going to work. I jump out to see what I've got walking by my camera, because if I get the big boy, hey, man, if I get the big boy, I'm going to tell you what, I'm fixing to get up out of that bed, and I'm fixing to drive either that 40 miles or that 60 miles, and I'm fixing to get up to that area, and I'm fixing to find out what's going on if I had to ride a road skateboard, So that's but it's really like I said, been a good year for me, for a guy who didn't get to do as much researching as I wanted to. And again, I want to pay tribute to my dog. I told you I lost. She had cancer, and she was a pit bull. And without her, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, because we were there one day and we had found a track to go cast, and it was too late in the afternoon, and my plaster Paris had dried up. So I went back to Texarkana. It's 38 miles to this area. Went back to Texarkana, and then spent the night. Came back between church time, and it was so hot that the dam around the foot that allows you to hold the plaster Paris, it had actually just evaporated. But as I got out of there, I had my black pit bull with me named Tippy, and hooked her up to the leash. And man, as we got out, we got 30, 40 yards from the truck there, just not very far at all. And man, all of a sudden this Bigfoot that made this track is up on the hill, and man, he screams that scream like it's not one of these, hey, come up here and visit. It's one of these, and man, whenever he screams, being a pit, she really didn't know what to do. Man, her tail went up over her back, her head stood up, the ears stood up, and then, I mean, she just was like one of these lawn statues that you see. It's well noted for Bigfoot sightings. This is the very beginning of a place that's called Thornton's Well. You can see just how swampy. You see the cypress knees, you see the giant cypress trees. Goes down there to about 200 yards down to Mercer Bayou. This pond right here that you see is actually full of alligators, but it's been very cold tonight, so I don't see any that are coming across. But there's a Bigfoot that stays back there by that yellow tree. We call him One Knocker. If you're here, he'll be back there and he'll knock at you. And the last activity I had with him was back towards the end of August. But he goes through here. Like I said, this place has its own aura, but it could be one of these places that could be shown in any horror movie in America. But I want y'all to see, this is actually not too far from where Tippy and I had our encounter with a Bigfoot that I'm fixing to tell you about here real soon. So thought y'all might enjoy seeing this. Hey everybody, Will here from Texarkana. I'm down here at a place where I had an encounter with a Bigfoot with my dog Tippy a few years back. I'd like to show this to you and share it with you. As you can see, this hill right here goes up this way. And here I am, right here parked on the road where this little road breaks to the side. Again, where this is, there's one way in and there's one way out. So Tippy and I are down here, and I had come to cast a Bigfoot track that we had found. So I sit here and I get out and I walk around and hook Tippy up to her leash. This is her side right here. And she didn't really want to get out for some reason. I opened the door. Usually she just bailed right out. Well, this time she didn't bail out, but she sit there and sniffed for a little bit, and I tugged for a little ways right there. Well, she finally came out. Well, sure as she does, we start walking down this little road right here. This road is where the track was actually located. So we start walking down this road here, and as we go, man, her nose is in the air. She's going from this side of the road to this side of the road. This side of the road, the nose goes down to the ground, goes to this side of the road. Here she goes. We get not too far down here, and all of a sudden, we get, I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I knew that sound from time before. Immediately her hair stands up on her back. Her tail goes over her back, and she poises her head, and then she starts panicking. She doesn't know what to do. She starts running again from side to side. I have to encourage her. We come down here to where the track is. The track is just down here where this big tree is. We come down here and we find it's been so hot that the track, the dam on the hill that was going to hold the plaster of Paris was actually evaporated. So we couldn't do it. When we get down here, we start back. All of a sudden, again, well, I've got on 3 pistols and I've got a slug inside my shotgun. We start walking back, and man, I'm nervous and she is nervous. I'm steadily looking for this animal. I'm trying to find where he is. And I know he's up on this hill. Here's that first hill I showed y'all right there. So as we're going back here to the truck, ready to get in, about the time we're almost here to the truck, and about right down here, the animal has moved on this side of the hill. And all of a sudden, Well, man, when that happens, I get out my keys and I punch the alarm on my vehicle so that we'll at least have some noise, maybe scare this thing away. Go over here, I get Tippy. As I said, here's her side of the truck. Well, they're trying to save time and ourselves, actually. I come up here and I open my door. She's right here. I unhook the leash. I open the door and she bounds across my driver's seat and my console and lays down and basically starts quivering. So again, this is something here that's one of the most scariest attacks encounters I've ever had. And if it wouldn't been for Tippy and her posturing, I think for sure I probably would have had an encounter that I wasn't really wanting to deal with. Again, that Bigfoot was just right up there, and there we were down there. And like I said, I lost Tippy about a month ago to cancer. But without her, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. But I wanted to share this to you, and that basically is a tribute to her. So here we are, folks, and hope you enjoyed seeing this. I'm about probably 200 yards from Mercer Bow. Man, but you know, the thing is, I truly believe that without her being there to make that thing uneasy enough to think, this dog is there, this guy is armed. If it recognizes me being armed, that maybe I better not try to attack or not try to go down there or give me any grief. So again, what a wonderful dog. She was as faithful as she was brave, man. Like I said, I lost her 2 weeks ago, and she was my Bigfoot hunting dog. So again, anything that I experience from now on, I want to dedicate to her. And you know, that may sound corny to some people, but it's not. If you've got one of them faithful dogs, you understand what I'm talking about. So,
Right.
so anyway, yeah, that's
Now
been,
you say the thing kind of made a roar at you. Are you talking about like the Tasmanian devil gibberish angry sound that they make?
yeah, it was, man. He was up there on a hill right there where I was around a place down on Mercer Bow. It's a place called Thornton's Wells, and you have to go towards Shreveport from Texarkana about 36 miles. Then you go back into the west a little bit until you get into the Sulphur River Wildlife Management Area. And then you've got access to Mercer Bow right there, but you've also got access to a couple of big old lakes that are in there that you can fish. And you've got access to about a 4-mile walkway into the woods. It was actually coincidentally where Cliff Barrickman and Renee in the Finding Bigfoot episode Return to Boggy Creek, if you remember anything about that episode, where they said, well, we had a creature here, said he hollered us, he followed us down the creek. He was across the creek, but the water got so high over our boots that we couldn't continue. Well, it's the very same place there. And so when we get out, like I said, I'm just that little bit of ways, and he's on top of this hill. This road that we travel down is down in like a little ravine right there. And so whenever we're starting to walk down through there, he's just, I mean, I'll try to give you my best. It's just like that right there for about 5 seconds. And man, she just went bananas. She didn't know how to act. But she knew one thing, it was not going to get me as far as she could do it. And her bravery was just, it inspired me, and I went and I didn't waste any more time after that. I wasn't going to ask her to be protective of me any more time than what was needed. So again, without her, I might not be here telling you all this story. So again, that's boy, what a faithful, that's the kind of friend that everybody needs, the kind of friend that I would be remiss if I didn't memorialize that story with her as far as for doing that.
Right on. Yeah, I've heard that angry devil noise before myself.
Yes.
There was one up on our yard making the damn thing about every 3 minutes or so for about a half an hour, and he kept shifting positions in different parts just inside the wood line around the yard. And excuse me, like I said, every 3 minutes or so you'd hear that.
Yes. Almost like off of the Sierra sounds there.
Yeah, exactly like it. Yep.
They want to call it a growl, but you and I both know that's not a growl. And that thing is also, the syllabization in that thing is also beyond being replicated by human voice. I mean, it's just unreal. You can't just imitate it and come with it. It's so powerful. Like I said, it vibrates your clothes. I mean, it's just that dadgum loud. And I liken it to a pair of arena speakers, or if you go to a rock concert and you're standing there in front, and man, it's that loud. So it was very, very, it was scary as it could be. And like I said, I had about as far to walk to get to the track from when it first hollered as I did to get back to the truck. And So anyway, I called my son. He was at dental school in Memphis at that time, and I called him. I said, "Well," I said, "he's down here on the hill down here," and so I've got Tippy with me. He's like, "Man, bitch, just be sure you get my dog killed." I said, "Let me tell you, he's going to have to kill me before he kills this dog." And that's just kind of, what kind of loyalty person would I be if I didn't have the same kind of loyalty towards her? But thank goodness it didn't come towards that, because I don't want to kill Bigfoot. I don't carry a gun for Bigfoot. I carry a gun for the hogs. I carry a gun for the panthers, for the bears. I told you we've got a bear on our lease about 450 pounds. That's a big bear for Arkansas. Also,
Yeah.
for some of the people that decide they want to come down there and start screwing with your stuff, because you can't
Yeah.
ever tell what people are going to do. So again, I carry a weapon more for
Those guys with a machete and a hockey mask on that wander around in swamps.
yeah, well, exactly. Like I said, there's always somebody back there that's going to get a kick out of playing, doing something stupid. They play stupid games, but in the end, they're going to win stupid prizes, because I don't deal with that a whole lot. I don't think it's funny like what they do, and it's not so funny when all of a sudden you get the upper hand. So, like I said, guy with the hockey mask and a machete, um, he can sling that blade real quick, but man, that slinging leg gets there a whole lot quicker than what he's got. So again, I'm not trying to threaten anybody, but that's just the way it is. It's a different world than what it used to be, man. But it's a Bigfoot. As long as it's been around, if it could understand people, it would think, golly, what is this human race coming to? No wonder they want to watch us. Like what they said on that episode there. No wonder we're their entertainment. Because there's no telling what we're going to do next. But
Yeah, we're each other's entertainment because humans are so screwy and weird and hard to predict. We even
yeah.
have shows about them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the truth. So again, like I said, if I go, and except for that Gugwee, he's not going to have a good day when I meet him. I promise you. I've learned enough about them to. I think one person said about them, and also about the dog man, that they said if you see a Bigfoot, just let him walk. Let him go. He's not going to walk by as a rule. He's not going to hurt you. They said, but if you see a Gugwee or a dog man, you better start shooting, because he's going to try to kill you. So that's kind of why you should always at least try to have some kind of armament on you. And I know where you live, you said your Bigfoot kind of protect you, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that may be one reason that I haven't had any trouble. And this one area where we're going up there around the foothills of the Ouachita Mountains, because I think the Bigfoot recognized us. I sent you a picture of Bigfoot standing right between my tracks, right there within 15 minutes after I left. And so I do. I think that I think that these Bigfoot actually protect me up there, and I haven't had any kind of aggressive encounter up there now. And we've got Dogman. I sent you 2 pictures there for the show right here. One of them you'll see it has ears, and it's got red eyes, and it's kind of early in the morning. And then I sent you another one of a great old big head back there, about like a dogman's head, and it's between 2 limbs there as he's looking out, and you see the snout. And if it's not Dogman, whatever that creature is, I don't want to meet it. But anyway, like I said, but I think they protect you. I think they realize that you're not out to hurt them. Like I said, I bring them candy bars. I've told you I bait them up with candy bars, and I bring them whether, if the candy bars, if I carry a pocket full of candy bars and my other bait hadn't been taken, then I go ahead and leave them anyway. So in doing that right there, I think they realize I'm not going to hurt them, and don't plan to hurt them. And the guns are not for them. The guns are actually for the other things that come around there. So anyway, that's kind of where this year is going, and like I said, it's fixing to get started. Hopefully this week. After tomorrow, I've got something to do tomorrow, but after that, starting Tuesday. This friend of mine that has, I mentioned the other night on the radio show, he's a minister here of a little community not too far from Texarkana. Well, he's got a patch of woods right beside his church. Well, the Bigfoot are coming up in the woods and watching all the people that go to church where he's at get in their cars and drive off. And he's sitting there, he gets out there and he listens to them, and he tries to make sure that they don't have any kind of encounter. He said, you can hear the Bigfoot walking off after the people get in their cars and drive away. So, and he found a place there where they're going through, and then they're crossing underneath a major U.S. highway, underneath a bridge, and going on to an ammunition Army ammunition plant, an old Army ammunition plant that's been closed down. And boy, of course, that place has just been full of some of the biggest deer forever, because they've had so many government regulations. You couldn't hunt it like you needed to. So, it's almost like going to a buffet for the Bigfoot. But he and I become friends, and so we're going to start researching that area. So I'm expecting some good things out of that area too, because they're there. I've known it for a long time. or I've been suspicious of it for a long time. I just couldn't get anybody out there at the Army and Ammunition plant to verify it. Well, now that they've got that thing closed, you can't necessarily get on it, but I've got access. If they're in that little patch of woods there, it's not a big patch of woods. It's 80 to 200 yards there, but that's all they need, So I'm excited about that right there as well. And I always,
as we talked about here recently, they have seem to have interest in unusual sounds and especially music and stuff. And it would just fall within there. There's a church full of people making music and singing and stuff, and they can sneak up close enough to listen to it. Well, how entertaining is that?
well, exactly right. And Duke, we mentioned that, and I didn't think about till you just said that within the music from the church. It's a not an a cappella church, but it's a church where they have an organ and stuff like that, but still they have a good PA system, and then the people are still in there singing, and so like you said, that's entertainment to them to hear that kind of different noise than what they're used to hearing. So I think that's one reason that they come in there. And he said it's happened on several different occasions. And I said, a man being a preacher, he doesn't want to be found out to be a liar. He's not going to be employed very long. But this guy's a very sincere guy. I really enjoy his company and have enjoyed the times that we've gotten to talk and go out and stuff. So I'm excited about getting to go on that right there. And just like you said, those strange sounds that we may think that we get used to that are different to them, and it attracts them. So I'm going to let everybody know about that as well too. As we get that research done. So.
Now, the other thing you mentioned, I want to make sure that everybody understands clearly what you were talking about. That it's not so much that I think Bigfoot will actually protect you. I think they become habituated to your presence. You're like part of the background, or maybe like one of the things that's in their territory. I figure like they part way like own you or something. And so if anything messes with you, that thing is messing with one of their quote unquote pieces of property. And the other thing is that if you're in an area that's like a hotspot where there's Bigfoot around a lot and they're hanging around this area, the only kind of predators you're going to find there are suicidal ones and dead ones. And that's really how they're protecting you. Because these other animals, they have senses. They can smell, they can hear, they know what the hell a Bigfoot is. And if the Bigfoot are hanging around in a certain area, well, the one class of animals you can pretty much guarantee that are not going to be there, other than the prey animals, are the bigger predators, because they're in direct competitors with them. And if those Bigfoot got little squatchlets or something hanging around there, they're not going to put up with them. And they do eat, so yeah, most of those predators know better. And so that's when I say, if you're in an area where the Bigfoot are around, it's not so much that the Bigfoot are physically going to protect you. It's that the predators aren't insane and suicidal, so they're not going to be there.
Well, that's a good point and a good way of looking at that. I hadn't thought about it that way. Because like I said, they're not animals to be trained or tamed. They're a wild animal. You should never know what. Anytime you go out into the woods, if you run into the wrong kind of animal, it can be a fatal encounter for you. But these things, they're not out to hurt people. I don't think. I told y'all the story the other night. I think I did. If not, of a friend of mine who was a Miller County deputy, and one year we had a real bad ice storm down here, and so there was a car that wrecked on the Sulphur River Bridge. Well, whenever it did, the door was pinned up against the concrete abutment there, and it had been wrecked pretty good, and so the people couldn't get out. And as they're sitting there, and this is was documented on the Miller County docket there by reports, because the man who was the deputy, we actually rented a house from his mother and dad for a long time, and he told me about it, as well as did another lady not too long ago. But as this car is there on the bridge and it's had a wreck, and of course I'm sure the horn's probably going off, or at least the lights or something other, and this Bigfoot comes out from underneath the bridge there at Sulphur River Bridge on Highway 237, and it pulls the car with one hand away from the abutment, and it pulls the door open, and then it walks back underneath the bridge. And like I said, we joked around about the stories of the troll, but that
was just a friendly troll.
Just a friendly troll. That's right. But we know that's not so. It had some kind of kinship with people that didn't mean to hurt them. It realized they were in trouble, and that's kind of the way it did. So. So that's when you hear that story. Like I said, I heard that from the guy who it actually happened to, because he knew I was interested in Bigfoot. He knew what had happened to me, back in 1977. And so for him to tell me that story, and then for this other lady that works down here not too long ago, she goes, well, Rex, this happened to him. I said, yeah. I said, he told me that story. Well, that's all I needed right there, was that he'd already told somebody else that story, because this man wasn't a liar. He was just a good old Southern boy. He'd even tell you about his best crappie and catfish holes. Anybody will do right there is not going to pull your leg. That's for sure.
Hey, man. All right. Well, did you have any much got it covered at this point?
I think pretty much got it covered. As I said, since I didn't get to go out as much this year after I had this surgery there. And the cool thing about the craziest thing about the surgery, tell you what kind of crazy year this is. I go over there to get my test, and whenever I pull up down at Shreveport, Louisiana, down there to the doctor's office, there's an active shooter right across the street. I'm like, oh my God. And so you can't carry your weapon inside the hospital, but this knucklehead across the street's got his and is over there, over there shooting people. I'm like, oh, good grief, how's this going to end up? Come up here for a hand surgery and end up going home in a pine box, but it worked out pretty good. So, but that's just kind of another example just how crazy this year has been for me. But again, not getting to go out as much and losing that time there, I'm going to make up for it. And I'm hopeful, and I'm actually confident. I think we truly have one of the most active areas in America. I believe that with all my heart. And like I said, this is public land. It's not private land. I do have a buddy who has private land that has got Bigfoot on it. He got a strange picture the other night in one of his game cameras, and I still haven't decided for sure what it is. But said we're going to hopefully get that looked at too. He's actually got the SD card on that, so I'm going to get that to where people say when you've got the original stuff there that they can actually make more out of by trying to get it filtered up. So that's pretty cool too. And like I said, he had an encounter with a 9-footer. And the coincidental thing about that is where he has the camera. Last year after deer season, he didn't go down there very much. Well, he and I go down there not too long ago, and there's actually a Bigfoot igloo structure that is built.
Wow.
About 30 foot away from him.
Got a hut in there, huh?
Yeah, exactly right. They got him a hut in there. And of course, I believe they use those things to hunt, because we went there the other night to have supper. He had, he had 34 deer in his yard at that time. It's like a doggone day deer. Yeah, 34 whitetail, and it's unreal. And it's just almost a laughing joke how many deer he has. But his first sighting there, he had 16 out there looking at him. And all of a sudden they raised their heads when he was reaching over to get his gun. Well, he thought they had busted him. Well, about that time, Bigfoot screams over there over his right shoulder. He turns and looks, man. He panics. Bigfoot sees him. Bigfoot panics. It takes off, crashing back through the brush. Then his dad, who was about 300 yards away, panics, and the phone answers, and her phone rings, and he goes, Shannon, what was that? And he goes, Dad, you're not going to believe me if I tell you. And so he told him, and so he called me that afternoon and said, man, is there any way you could come up here to my place? And I said, oh man, I thought you'd never ask. I'll be there 20 minutes ago, And so
suddenly he opened the door and realized you were already there waiting.
Exactly right. And in 10 minutes we're finding the first tracks down there, and about another 45 minutes we get probably 3 really good vocalizations down there and it's really, really dark. It's a pine thicket. It's that they're using to grow a pole timber and stuff. So it's just really, really thick. We get 3 great vocalizations. We drive on around. We find a few more tracks. We look where the thing was that morning where it had crashed back through the brush. Well, that afternoon about 6:30, we're going to head back down there, and all of a sudden the thing starts screaming again. So we decided, not because we were scared, but decided hope that we might be able to record some of that or see some of that to let it go on before going down there. But it didn't last very much longer, so we weren't any more enriched by what we had as far as the pictures of the recordings. But anyway, this guy, he's seen it twice more since then. And so again, that's private land, and so I'm kind of anxious to see how that works out too. To when they get through with that, one little lady there, she went down there and she got to see it, and whenever she went home, she was so scared. Well, didn't anything happen? Well, about 2 weeks later, she's going through this same little area. She rounds a corner, and they're standing out in the field is the same creature. I mean, of course, she just said she just floorboarded her truck and went home as fast as she could. She was in tears, and she called them. Of course, they called to make sure that she had made it home safely and everything like that. But it really affected her. And her remark was, "I've seen enough Bigfoot." There's no such thing as enough Bigfoot, as you know.
You can never see too many Bigfoot. No, I don't agree with that. I've seen enough already. I don't need to see anything.
Well, I'm hoping
They don't they don't jump in front of me where I can take pictures of them because they know I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to take pictures of you guys.
well, that's it for me. I want to have I want people to believe. Anybody doesn't believe me now, now I know you'll vouch for me. That's what Duke, you're supposed to, but no, everything I'm telling you is the truth, man. But it is intensified. The number of encounters you have is intensified by the number of times that you go into the woods. If you're going to an area that's got Bigfoot in there, then your chances of having an encounter are going to be that much greater than they are if you're just sitting home, watching it on TV. And so by me being now retired and be able to go into the woods now at least 5 days a week. And again, my wife researches with me now, and my son goes out, and then the other guys I have that work with me. When things happen a whole lot more, and then you get wind of more sightings. You've got more people telling other people, and so that's how it's been. But this area I have is so really really good, and I'm just optimistic, and I hope I'm not let down. But if it is, I'll be there next year, and then if they don't come back next year, I'll be looking for another place to hunt. But I won't be giving up on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we've experienced that firsthand too. That you, like I was talking about earlier, you kind of become part of their territory. Like you're a thing that's supposed to be there. And they go from being annoyed that you're there to putting up with you being there to, well, you're supposed to be here, aren't you? You're here all the time. And we were down on the Blackfoot River doing our camp down there, and we were there. Is either one or both of us were there every night for 4 months. And early in December, we had one making a racket down on the river, and Jack went down to see what was going on, shined a flashlight on it, and it stood up and turned around and looked at him. And he turned the flashlight off and went, I'm in the wrong bleeping place. And then he was so frozen in terror, he just kind of stood there for a minute, and it gazed at him for, he said, like another 3 or 4 seconds, and then it just turned around and went face down back in the river doing whatever it was doing, overturning rocks. And, you would have never gotten that kind of reaction out of a Bigfoot that wasn't used to your presence. He had already been so habituated to, who are these two boneheads that are camping in this thicket over here for the last 4 freaking months? Whatever, I don't care anymore. And just kind of ignores you. Well, they had already been sneaking in camp, stealing food from us for a month and a half before that. So they just get to the point where it's like you just become part of the background and they don't care anymore.
Yeah, all you are for them is a distraction. You're keeping them from doing what they want to do now, but they're going to keep an eye on you regardless. They can't help it. They can't. Yeah. It's just not in their nature. Just let you be there without something.
What I'm saying is, after 4 months of them being around us pretty much every frickin' day, and knowing that we're not armed, we're not dangerous. Well, he just went about 40 feet away from them and went face down in the river again, like, oh, you're not armed, Rick. I don't give a shit. I'm going back to fishing.
My neighbor Jack woke up. It was midnight. He was hearing some weird noises. Sounded like something was rolling or sliding down the rocky slope of the riverbank. And he figured, aha, it's the river otters. The river otters are out there playing in the river at night. And since he's awake, because he has lots of pain issues and wakes up every 3 or 4 hours anyway, he decides he'll come walking down here and see what he can see. Well, from here, at that time of night, that river is just black. It's just like an asphalt road in the dark. It's black. And the only reason he could see anything is because there was actually a moon last night, even though we had cloud cover, there was that kind of sky glow, which lights up the snow. So he could see what basically was going on via that. And he decided, well, I'm standing here, I can't see where they are exactly, so I'm going to walk down this really steep bank here where I'm standing, and get down to the river and see if I can get a closer look at them. So, scurrying and sliding down the steep bank, like I'm doing right now. Trying not to fall in or drop the camera. Woohoo! Practically skied that part. Waka. And as you can see, he got over to here. Those are my tracks. I went down early this morning. So from here he looked and said, where are the otters? And as he's standing here looking, something rose up out of the river, and it wasn't an otter. He could see it outlined against the snow in the background there. And it had a head and shoulders and an upper torso like a human. It was all covered with hair. And he said, "Oh bleep, I'm in the wrong place," and promptly turned around and went back up the hill to camp. And then came and woke me up. So, what can we see? If anything. There's a track line coming down that embankment. There's the steep rocky part it was sliding down. There's, I don't know if you guys can make it out from over here, but there's actually a slide with a rock or something dislodged and went flying straight down that way. And then the track line comes down over there. So, was it a Bigfoot? I said, well, are you sure it wasn't a river otter or a beaver? No. Way too big. Are you sure it wasn't a bear? That was no bear, man. So he's pretty sure what he's seeing. Was it a Bigfoot? Well, if it was, Class A right here, 10 hours ago, at this very spot.
Well, I'll tell you what, no matter how much they get habituated to me, when I've got one 40 foot away, I guarantee you I'm going to be just like he was. I'm going to be sinking to that ground for a while. And I don't know whether I'm going to. Yes, exactly.
He said it must have been face down the river holding its breath a good, probably almost 2 minutes before the shock wore off, and he realized that he should get the hell out of there. And started beating ass back up the embankment back to camp again. And then he got about halfway up that embankment, and we heard a call that sounded like a female mountain lion going off. And neither one of us could see the river at that point, but we could both hear him come up out of the river and go up the embankment on the far side and, apparently make his way back up to the cliff top. Maybe his mom up there yelling for him or something. We don't know. But.
And to that story right there, what I do, anytime somebody tells me a story, or even just like what you just told me there, I try to find something there that I know to be what we call common Sasquatch knowledge or common trait. And the one thing you said right there, river, they do, for the classic line from the legend of Boggy Creek, where the narrative goes, well, they always follow the creeks. I don't know how they knew that back in 1971 or 72 when they filmed that, but it's true. And what you just said, you've got a river right there. If you're going to go Bigfoot looking and become a researcher or want to have an encounter or something like that, the first thing you need to do is find an area that's got Bigfoot. And generally, if you've got a creek somewhere, that's your first place that you need to start looking, because not only is it going to provide them with food, it's going to provide them with water, and it's also going to, like I said, the other animals that are going to be coming in, it's also going to give them a way to where they can run across and escape as a rule, because not everything is 4 to 5 foot tall. They can just cross the creek and go on like what they can. So again, that's when you said that, I thought about that. I thought, man, that's another thing right there. They do. So the water, when you hear somebody tell you a story, man, don't, try to find your commonalities, and that was one right there. They do. They follow that water. So man, that's
I'll
one.
tell you something else that I got from one of the natives up here, and up here it's the Rocky Mountains. The ground is rocky. It doesn't hold a track where you cross the ground and not leave a track. But that's not the case all over the country. In some places, the ground is kind of softer, and you still got these ginormous. Watch, how are they walking around and not ever leaving a trail, especially when they want to go from, we depleted all the food in Area A, let's go to Area B. Well, like I just pointed out, they'll follow the rivers around. Those are, stationary travel routes that aren't going to change much year to year. So if they go down river X number of miles, this place is, well, they've been doing that all their life, and it's always there when they go X number of miles down the river. Now, here's the interesting thing. What if the really big ones, when they're going from point A to point B, are literally walking in the river where they're not going to leave a track?
Exactly. Let me give you an example, man. Like I said, I like to bass fish. Years and years ago, there's Bassmaster magazine, and in there they had a account down at Atchafalaya basin down there in Louisiana, and where one of the guys was fishing, and he looked down one of these finger-like creeks down there, and he said there's a big black giant cone-shaped head that's about shoulder high into the water, and then the shoulders and the head are above, that's crossing that creek back there. And he said, man, he said it was a Bigfoot. Well, of course, they're not going to, incriminate themselves and try to sound stupid. So they said, well, it could have been a Bigfoot. No, I got to talk to this guy a little bit later on at one of the Bassmaster events. It was a Bigfoot, and then he goes, man, that's all it could have been, and he said, I wasn't a Bigfoot believer. He said, I am now, and so whenever you get to that, have that verified, by somebody. And like I said, that water was deep. When I went to a new deer lease in a little town there in Arkansas, and a guy had been back there duck hunting, and so he shot a duck, and he didn't have a boat back there and everything. He just carried a rod and reel with him, and if it was in another place that's too deep, he'd snag it with a bait, and then well, sure enough, he shoots a duck. It goes across one of these levees. Well, whenever he goes across there, it takes you a while to get there because there's still a lot of brush growing up. And when he does, there's a Bigfoot standing in waist deep water that's already got hold of his duck. And when it sees him, it just hisses and then just bites the duck's head off. He goes, man, I ain't gonna argue no daggum Bigfoot over a duck. He
said, you can have that duck, no problem, buddy.
That's exactly right, man. I'll even pluck him for you, But anyway, like you said, using that water, they don't have any more daggum aversion to going in that water, than a kid does at the summertime swimming hole. They will use those rivers. One of the places that I find more tracks than any place, especially this place up here around the Ozarks up there in the Ouachitas, is a drain that comes off the higher water, and then it hits, and then it goes down. It's not a very, very deep angle. It's probably maybe about a 3 to 4 degree angle like that, but it drains down for about 150 to 200 yards there until it gets to a different part of a diversion. Man, I find more dadgum tracks in that little drain right there on the side of that road than you would believe if I told you. But I check it every time I go through there, because once it gets through there, it's just perfect. It's got some soft sand there, and then the sand that's been from the erosion of the water, and so it's just perfect for leaving tracks. And so, just like you said, as far as for using that water, using those rivers and stuff, man, if they're using those rivers, that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's their highways. And, you guys can go back and look at the catalog of some of the shows that I've done. This thing comes up a lot, over and over and over. Jerry Klein had his first sighting of a Bigfoot crossing a river right next to where he was camping. He turned the light on as it was in the middle of the river and went, holy bleep.
Well, one guy who has land up there that we have access to, Bigfoot hunt, we've only been there one time. Me and Stephen and Mary got to go up there, but he gave us access because he's a duck hunter, and then the river goes through there, and he likes having his own privacy, having his own land. Well, anyway, he's back there, and he sees some guy out there in a pair of brown chest waders that's in a brown jacket that's out there wading across the river where he hunts. Well, man, he sneaks down there in his pickup truck, gets his gun out, and he walks to the edge of the river, and he hollers, says, hey, he said, you're trespassing. Yeah, he's trespassing because this thing turns around. It's a Bigfoot. It's not a hunter. It's a Bigfoot. And so he said this thing takes 3 steps, runs out of the water because it's in the middle of the water, runs out of the water and jumps straight up a cliff and takes off there. And so because of it so unnerved him, he was not a believer until that time. And he goes, no, I'm not a believer now. He said, I'm a knower right now. And he said, you guys, he said,
I
you
went
guys
from there's no such thing as Bigfoot to Bigfoot definitely exists in about a half a second.
That's exactly right. And so he's given Stephen and I access to go in there and hunt his land anytime. And man, I mean, it's prime Sasquatch territory. And when you have as many areas as we do, there have been really good. Like I said, it's matter of fact, it's the same place this year on Father's Day. I meant to tell this story, and if I did, stop me. But as I did, we went down there, and it was my son went with me. So we're going down to the edge of the river there, and as we're down there, we went to one place there, and we found some small tracks that were definitely Bigfoot tracks, And so, when you've seen a lot of tracks, you don't really you look at them, if they're worth taking picture worthy, but you don't necessarily cast, the smaller ones like that. Well, we went to the next place. As I pull up there, I'm looking over the river, and it's getting to a place where there's a riffle right there. And so the water's starting to go across these rocks, but you see the waves going backwards against the current.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. So I'm like, Reese, that's strange. So I get out to look. Well, by the time I do, I see a hand and an arm just wave across the top. and it was a big black hand. And I'm like, Reese, that's a Bigfoot. And I jumped in my truck and I went and parked to where I could make that quick getaway. That's a second rule of Bigfoot hunting, man. Besides finding someplace where they are, it's when you get there, make sure your vehicle's parked in a way that you don't have to zigzag or anything, that you can immediately pull out. So I get out, like I said, after we park here and we go. Well, then I said, he's running straight up he's running straight up the bank right there. And so we don't get to see him in after that right there. But about 2 or 3 minutes, I'd start doing my barred owl call. And man, all of a sudden he hits us with 3 real aggressive blasts, just about like the same one I made a while ago, just, and then it waits about 5 seconds and he hits us again. Then he hits us with that third one, man. By then, you realize that he's not very happy that you interrupted his bath, but also he's so it was pretty cool, because at first my son thought, whenever I said that's a Bigfoot, he thought I was kind of pulling his leg. Whenever he heard that right there, he realized I wasn't. And all I got to see, just because of my angle on that real high bluff and on the river, was just his hand as it went up. I don't know if he was throwing, I don't know if he was washing under his arms, I don't know what he's doing, but anyway, to see that right there. And then whenever he took off like that, then coincidentally I said, we find this 18-inch track that I sent you that has the strange splay in there, and you can see it together. And man, it's pretty deep for a hot summertime track to be found. So that was really pretty cool. And that's another deal. Those rivers, they've got a chance to follow those rivers. They don't mind getting in those rivers, any more than a kid being told by his mom to get a bath has more trouble than a Bigfoot does crossing the river. So that's
Yeah.
I think a good tip for anybody who wants to research is like I said, try to find you a waterway. They're going to be using it, especially if that's maybe one of the major waterways there is and has the all that brush around it and everything else too. So
Yeah,
that pretty
you can bet your bottom dollar they know where all the waterways and the little tributaries in their area are, like the back of their hand.
Well, I actually counted not too long ago there of all the different creeks and rivers and ponds that have had encounters in, and as far as and reservoirs, Corps of Engineer reservoirs and everything, and it's been over 45 that have had and I call encounter not just a sighting, but also had some scream at us, had tree knocks, had them throw rocks at you. And so, and like I said, 45 different waterways, and most of those are within an hour of my home. Now, man, if that doesn't tell you the importance of these waterways to these Bigfoot when you're researching, nothing is going to, because if it didn't reach out and slap you with the truthfulness of the fact, then somebody else will reach out and slap you and say, man, you need to do something besides Bigfoot research, because you're missing something right here that's right.
Clearly, you're not paying attention.
Exactly. Will here from Texarkana in the Sulphur River bottoms, and I want to share this with you, something that I've just found here. I found what's probably the biggest A shape that I have ever found. I find this often here in these Sulphur River bottoms like this. But you can see as it runs right there, to right there, to right here. The whole size of the triangle is, it's probably 10 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot. Anyway, let me show you this here. You can see this A shape as it goes all the way through. Sorry for the daggum shadows, but that's kind of the way it is sometimes. And there's the other part of the A right there. Cool part about this is it's around some other activity that we have over here that you can see. Again, right here in this tree structure that we're coming up on. You can see right there how that's broken, woven, intertwined behind that tree right there, behind this tree. And again, to add to it, there's tree break right here. There's also tree break right here. And as we go back this way, you can see what used to be a part of a pine tree all the way suspended from the surface right here. It is probably at least 20 foot high. So again, let me go back over that to get away from the sunshine. And you can see this all the way up there. There's no place up there for it to have broken from and fallen to. So that's what we're looking at. So that's about all I've got, buddy. Like I said, I will have more. I promise you. If you'll have me back, I would love to be back. If folks will have me back to.
Oh, we'll definitely have you back. If I don't have you back again, there'll be an uprising, and I'll open the door in the morning, and there'll be an angry mob with pitchforks and flaming torches and stuff. So can't risk that. We'll definitely have you back again.
Well, man, I appreciate that. I really do think I'll get some more pictures this year. Like I said, and be patient with me, folks. Like I said, this isn't just stopping like you do at the local photograph place there to have a portrait taken. This is game cam photography. Bigfoot doesn't always pose, and he doesn't follow instructions well. So I'm trying my best, and what I get to, you know, that I'm trying to give you stuff that you can see and make a logical, reasonable assumption or an acknowledgement that, hey, these animals are real and this guy really wants us to see it. So again, I want to reassure everybody of that. So and I appreciate the time you've had me on your show here, man, and especially tonight as well.
It's always a blast, man. Thanks for coming back on the show again. We will definitely be having you back again in the near future.
Well, I look forward to it, and like I said, you got my number, and man, I'm glad to do it. And like I said, I think you got one of the greatest audiences in the world. They realize you're not jiving them. Duke is the walking Bigfoot encyclopedia, and so when he tells you something, like I said, you can take it to the bank. And if he doesn't know, he knows somebody who does know, and he can find out for you. And if he doesn't know that, then he'll be truthful enough to tell you, man, I don't know, but that'll be something we'll look into. So again, Duke, I appreciate it.
Or folks, I'll give you like 4 or 5 weird options that you can page through and decide which one you think might be.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Whichever one fits the story. There you
go. All right, brother. Thanks a lot. And all the people out there that were listening to the show, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, make sure to click that thumbs up button. And if you are not already subscribed, please subscribe. I guarantee that my shows will not go to down the toilet and become suddenly crap or anything. I'm going to keep them at least to the level that they're at. I'm trying to make it better all the time with my no budget. And if you want to help make it better and help with the no budget problem, since I'm completely demonetized on YouTube and every other platform, some platforms I have to actually pay to be on there. So, you know, it takes money to do shows and afford all the equipment, get out in the field and everything else that's going on, you know, just to afford the platforms to be able to put the videos up on some of them. So if you guys can help with any of that, it would be very greatly appreciated. You can send your aid to paypal.me/World Bigfoot Central. And those of you that do, as you may have noticed in recent shows, you get listed as co-producers at the beginning of the show, since that's literally what you are. And I really greatly appreciate it. I love the fans too. And as William mentioned, and I'll reiterate it, I have some of the most brilliant and amazing fans out there. And it's very humbling to have an audience like that enjoying my show and coming back week after week and checking it out. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go now because we're running up close to almost. This will probably be a 2-parter. Anyway, love you guys. Be kind to each other. Don't fight with other people. Always try and be as nice as you can. Pay it forward. Don't poke the puck, would you? Do not punt dog man. Don't flip off the mountain giant. And whatever you do, don't hug the Wookiee. Bye.